You're 45 years old. For the past 20 years, you've done everything you were told was the smart financial move. You worked consistently. You contributed to your retirement account. You avoided reckless spending. You skipped expensive mistakes because you believed those sacrifices were buying one thing: freedom. Then someone asks a simple question. If you never earned another paycheck, how many years could your savings actually support you? You start doing the math. Maybe you've saved $250,000, maybe even $400,000. That sounds like a lot of money until you convert it into years of income instead of dollars in an account. That's when most people realize they've been measuring retirement the wrong way their entire lives. Here's the uncomfortable reality. The retirement target millions of people are chasing isn't failing because they're lazy, irresponsible, or bad with money. It's failing because the math changed. People are living longer. Healthcare costs are compounding faster than inflation, and the investment returns that previous generations relied on are no longer guaranteed to carry the same weight. Yet almost nobody adjusts their retirement plan to reflect that new reality. The result? Millions of hardworking people won't discover the gap until they're close enough to retirement that fixing it becomes dramatically harder. In this video, we're going to break down the math behind modern retirement, expose why the traditional roadmap no longer works the way most people think it does, and, more importantly, show what actually needs to change if you want your money to outlast your life. Let's get into it. Here's a fact that should be headlines everywhere. Only 7% of Americans can pass a basic retirement knowledge test. Not 7% know everything about retirement. 7% can answer basic questions about how compound interest works, what inflation actually does to your money, or the difference between nominal and real returns. This matters because you can't succeed at something you don't understand. You can't plan your retirement based on intuition. You need to know the math. The other 93%, they're operating blind. They're making 30-year financial decisions based on feelings, not facts. And here's the psychological part. They're confident in their blindness. They've read one article about the 4% rule. They know their Social Security benefit number. They feel like they've done their homework, but they haven't. And neither have most people. Now let me tell you about something that happened so quietly, so gradually, that almost nobody noticed it happening. In the 1970s, 50% of American workers had pensions. Real pensions. You worked for a company, and they guaranteed you $3,000 a month for life. That was the deal. The company bore the risk. The company managed the money. You got security. Then, starting in 1985, something changed. Between 1985 and today, 84,350 pension plans disappeared, just vanished. The guarantee was pulled back. What replaced them? The 401k. You contribute the money, you invest the money, you manage the money, you bear all the risk. The company cut a check for the match and said, "Good luck. You figure out the rest." Here's the brutal part. The median 401k balance when people retire is roughly $221,000. That generates about $8,840 per year in safe withdrawals. Add in Social Security, and most people are living on about $32,000 per year. In the 1970s, that same person would have had a pension generating $36,000 plus per year for life, with their company bearing all the risk. The system didn't fail. The system was dismantled, and workers were expected to become financial advisors overnight. Here's something that's genuinely dark, and it's why your retirement is about to become much harder even if your math was perfect. 30% of adults over 65 have measurable cognitive decline. Not dementia necessarily, but reduced ability to make complex financial decisions. That's nearly 1 in 3 people. And here's the cruel part. Your brain's decision-making ability peaks around 55 to 60, then declines by about 2% every year after that. So you finally reach retirement, the moment when you've built up enough wealth to live on your investments, and your brain is the least equipped it's ever been to manage that wealth. Add in early retirement, and the problem gets worse. If you retire at 60 instead of 65, your brain loses 5 years of engagement and declines faster. The research is clear on this. Early retirement causally accelerates cognitive decline. You're trying to navigate compound growth, asset allocation, tax-efficient withdrawals, and healthcare costs with a brain that's losing 2% of its decision-making capacity every year. The average household loses roughly $124,000 from cognitive decline-related financial mistakes, and those losses are irreversible. Here's the weirdest psychological phenomenon in all of personal finance. A 2025 survey found that 58% of workers know their retirement savings are behind where they should be. They're aware. They understand the problem. But here's what didn't make the headline. 48% of people not concerned about their retirement account don't care enough to change anything. They know they're off track, they just don't care. Why? Because by age 45 or 50, they've done the math and realized they can't catch up. So they've adopted a kind of financial fatalism. They tell themselves, I'll just work longer, or retirement is overrated anyway. The gap between knowing and doing isn't ignorance, it's hopelessness. The math is actually simple once you strip away all the financial jargon. 46% of American households have zero retirement savings. None. $0. That means nearly half the country is planning to retire on Social Security alone. The average Social Security benefit is $1,976 per month. That's $23,712 per year. Average rent in America is $2,100 per month. Before you've paid for food, utilities, medicine, or anything else, you're already out of money. The remaining 54% of people, they're split between having some savings and having real wealth. But when you look at the median 401k balance, it tells you something. Most people are going to struggle. Here's one more way 99% of people leave money on the table without realizing it. The average person claims Social Security at 62 and receives about $1,976 per month. But if they had waited until 70, they'd receive about $3,300 per month. That's a 67% increase. Over a 20-year retirement, that's a difference of roughly $250,000. Yet 91% of people claim early. They see the money available and take it, destroying the lifetime value of their benefit. The complexity is health status, life expectancy, taxes, spousal benefits, survivor benefits. The optimal strategy is different for everyone, but most people never even consider the strategy. They just claim when they first become eligible. There's one more thing hidden inside retirement failure, and it's actually actionable. Credit score deterioration is one of the earliest warning signs of cognitive decline. People's credit scores begin declining 2.5 years before a formal diagnosis. Not because they're making intentional bad decisions, but because they're forgetting payments, missing due dates, being manipulated more easily. By the time they notice their credit score dropped, the problem is already well established. This means your best defense is to build automated systems and simplify your finances by age 55, before decline starts, not after. The reason 99% of people will retire broke isn't because they're stupid or lazy. It's because the system shifted under their feet. In the 1970s, a pension guaranteed security. In 2026, a 401k guarantees risk. Only 7% of the population understands the math well enough to do this right. The other 93% are operating on intuition and hope. Add in cognitive decline happening exactly when you need decision-making the most, and the math becomes genuinely brutal. A median retirement of $221,000 plus Social Security cannot sustain a modern retirement. The retirement dream as sold, work until 65, retire, relax, is mathematically impossible for the majority of people. This doesn't mean you should give up, but it means the traditional path is broken, and you need a different plan. The sooner you accept that the old system failed, the sooner you can build something that actually works for your life. See you in the next one.